In this video, I'll be sharing 3 super easy techniques that will make your watercolor illustrations in Procreate stand out a bit more. And yes, they're beginner friendly.
Hello!
Hi, I'm Sandra Mejia and I'm here to make art feel easy and fun. Let me show you the 3 things that I do to level up my illustrations in Procreate: adding texture, contrast, and color tweaks. The first way is to use a watercolor paper texture. And for that, I'm going to use my brush. You can grab my watercolor brush set for free if you sign up to my newsletter. So I'm going to use this one, Add Paper Texture. So on top of my artwork, I create a new layer and I have that brush selected. And I'm going to choose a color that's like sort of brownish, yellowish, like around here. Yeah, you can use any color you want actually, like depending on what effect you want on your art. And I'm going to make my canvas very small and make sure that this brush is very big, and I'm going to cover my whole canvas without lifting my pencil. And I'm going to do that twice to make the watercolor paper texture effect more prominent. And if you zoom in a lot, you'll see it on your background, but you won't be able to see it much on your icons. So for that, I'm going to go and tap the N and set it to linear burn. And you'll see that it was like that. See here in the darker colors, you'll see that it automatically shows up on top of your art. And I think this makes it look less flat. So this is a very easy way to change the feel of your watercolor elements in Procreate. Then there's another thing that you can do to improve your watercolors. Sometimes you end up with watercolors that are too flat or don't have enough contrast and you wish they were brighter and more contrasting. So once you're done painting your artwork, I suggest you go to the gallery, you swipe left and you duplicate your file. And this one you rename flat and whatever your file name is, like Flat Ocean. And then you work on this one to recolor it so that you don't lose all your layers. So in this flat layer, I have flattened everything into one layer. If you don't know how to do that, I can show you here. If you have several layers, you just pinch on them and then they will become one flat layer. I'm going to undo that because I need that for later. But now you know how to flatten your layers. So once you have one flat layer, you're going to go here and you can use the hue, saturation, brightness. And you can even change the colors here to give it a totally different feel. So I'm going to make mine a bit pinkish here. And you can increase the saturation, but don't increase it too much because watercolors are usually not this bright, so you can increase it a tiny bit. Or you can decrease it if you ended up with a artwork that is way too bright. You can also use this to decrease the saturation and make it look more realistic. So I'm going to keep it like this. And here you can change the brightness, but that usually makes it too dark, so I don't like that. But you can increase the brightness, again, if you ended up with super dark watercolors. I'm not going to touch my brightness. And you can also go here and go to curves, and by modifying this line, dragging it up, you make it lighter, and dragging it down, you make the colors more contrasting. So if you ended up with something like this after you painted your pattern and you are not happy with the contrast that it has, then you can just do this, and I think it looks way more interesting because it doesn't look as flat. And then the other way that you can make your watercolors more interesting is, let's say we have this little stingray here and we want to make it a bit more interesting. You'll see here that I use the same color to shade it, but when you're using real watercolors, and depending on your style, you'll see that sometimes you'll touch like a different color in your palette. And like here, like I touched like some purple, and here, so it's not just pink, it also has some purple, or like here it has some yellow. Then if you do that to your digital watercolors, they will look more realistic. And there's two ways to do it. You can do it once you're painting your icon. So let's see, for example, here, I'm going to turn on alpha lock. And then using my brush, when I'm painting, I can introduce other colors into my painting. Oh, let's make that bigger. So I can just paint on this and introduce different color variations in the same icon to make it look a bit more realistic and more interesting. Or you can also, let's undo that, use the selection tool, make sure that freehand is selected, and then grab certain pieces of your illustration, like for example this side, and then I want to tap on the circle to close that shape, and then I want to add some more on this side, and tap on the circle, and make sure that feather is on, and I'm going to add a bit more feather, and you'll see that that will start to become bigger. If I go now to the hue, saturation, and brightness, I'm going to go like super dark so you can see what's selected. So the black parts are selected. And what the feather did is that it feathered the edges so that they're not dark edges. So it looks like it's actually blending in. So I'm going to leave the darkness as it was. And I'm just going to change the hue. So see, I can introduce some purple to it, or maybe a bluish teal or something. And I can change the saturation also here and make it super bright. And I can even make it brighter or darker depending on what I want. So when I release here, you'll see that now this looks more interesting and looks more as if you painted it with real watercolors. So those are 3 very easy and simple ways that you can improve your watercolor illustrations. Remember that if you want to grab the brushes, I will leave a link in the description area to sign up to my newsletter, and you'll get the brushes and tons of other freebies. And I'll see you soon. Bye!